Hello and welcome to another Cybersecurity Radar Risk Advisory. This one is for the March 15th, 2022 advisory that came out from CISA yesterday. Now, what was it focused on? As you can see here, there's the website link. It was focused on Russian state-sponsored cyber actors gaining network access. Now, it says they were able to do this by exploiting default multi-factor authentication protocols and taking advantage of print nightmare vulnerability. So what we're going to do is just go through some of this and see what you can learn from it and what you can do to better strengthen the defenses of your business. So here we have the summary that's taken from that website. Now let's focus on some things that happened. One, we noticed that it was a misconfigured account with default multi-factor authentication protocols. Now, good thing they had multi-factor authentication within the business. The problem, it was misconfigured. It was set to the default protocols. Many times that happens, that we begin implementing something within the business, trying to improve the security, and we leave it at the default settings. You see, those things aren't just set it and forget it. We have to go in there and tweak them, adjust them to the security posture that you want for your business. So that we know was a mistake, and they took advantage of that. What else happened? Now, because of that, they were able to enroll a new device for this multi-factor authentication, and once they did, they were able to gain access. Something else, they exploited a vulnerability, a print nightmare that was out, and as we can see in 2021, they took advantage of it. Now, what was bad about this is that it would give them system privileges, meaning they could do whatever they wanted if they were able to exploit this and escalate their privileges. Something of note is that this advisory came out on March 15th, 2022. But as we notice here, the FBI observed this type of cyber threat activity as early as May 2021. So it really wasn't connected with what's going on at this point with the war between Russia and Ukraine. So let's see what they began to do. As we can see, they gained initial access by means of compromised credentials. Now, how does that happen? Well, perhaps because of a phishing email. Some way, we click on a phishing link, it's a form, we type on it, and there goes our credentials. We put in our login information, and now they have it. Or perhaps it was password reuse because of other companies being compromised, and now our username and password is found out there in the dark web among the many breaches. And so because of password reuse, the passwords worked. And perhaps it was a username at company name. And now they were able to see, well, how can I get access into this company? And so with a little research, they find out what the organization is using, and they were able to gain access. Now, something else about this, it says that this victim account had not been used in some time. Now, they were using Duo, it mentions, for their multi-factor authentication. Very good solution. But they left some of the settings as default, as the device was unenrolled. But guess what? they didn't take the next step and disable this particular account in their server Active Directory. And so, with the compromised credentials, now they were able to find more passwords. As it mentions, there was a simple, predictable password. They got into their Duo. They re-enrolled a new device, and that was it. They were in. That's all it took. But notice something else. Because of this vulnerability, there in the box, we see that now they were able to, here, we see using this compromised account, now they were able to take advantage of the vulnerability and obtain administrative privileges. And so that was good that this particular user did not have admin privileges. But when they found out that there was a vulnerability that was not patched, they took advantage of that, exploited it. Now they have administrative privileges, and with that they were able to make adjustments and shut down their multi-factor authentication. And now this is where it was set improperly. It was set at the default, and they basically turned the internet off, kept Duo from reaching out to the internet, and so when it failed, it would fail to open, meaning that if the Duo server is not reachable, then guess what? You can just log in with the credentials. Now, when that is changed, then it's going to ask for an offline code, meaning that if you've set it up properly, then you need to have that extra step, and it's going to still require the multi-factor authentication in order to get in. But it was set as the default, and so they were able to get in without that. And so as we can see here, they just disabled their MFA, and they authenticated to their VPN next, went to remote desktop protocol, got to their domain controllers, and from there went to the cloud. So, what do we learn from this? If they had worked at their identities, their usernames, these are some questions now to ask yourself. Do I control the identities, the username, email addresses that the company uses? Or are they outside of my control because they're using free email addresses? Does each user have a unique username whenever they log into company devices, software? What permissions do they have? Are they local administrators? They can do anything they want. Does each username have a unique password? Or is it password reuse? And when it comes to many of the cloud accounts, are they secured with two-factor, multi-factor authentication? Can you control from where and when a user can log in? Meaning controlling, are they able to log in anywhere in the world? At any time? Or do you limit access by geography? Which devices are they using? Can they enroll any device automatically into your MFA solution? And which of these identities are actually connected to critical business functions? And now we notice there was also a brute force attack where they were able to find out passwords. So what's the failed lockout policy? Is it 5 failed logins where the account's locked out? Is it 10? Each business has to determine that. Do you have a process to revoke access when necessary? That user had been inactive. Their device was unenrolled. Why was access not revoked? What about the hardware? Although this was a user's perhaps personal device, maybe it was a company. Either way, it was not being used, and so was an inventory kept of which hardware. Because any of them can be compromised. And so if you have an inventory of all the hardware assets, then you can identify which ones are critical, which one of them are publicly accessible on the internet. And if they are, even IoT devices, is the default password, has it been changed? Could a threat actor take advantage of vulnerabilities because it wasn't patched? And maybe, does the vendor care for it? Is it part of their warranty? Are any of them defective? Are there recalls? And just some other things to think about in regards to the hardwares and devices, printers, and what happens to these hard drives when the devices are retired. And here's something that's a benefit. Which ones are actually connected via Wi-Fi to your company network? Are they all company owned? Do they have access to company devices, software, the server? Can you think of when was the last time your Wi-Fi password was changed? How many individuals have been terminated that know it? Is it accessible 24/7? What about non-employees? Do they access that same network? Is the device accessible via remote desktop? Some things to think about. In this instance, this device was able to be enrolled automatically. Is that how you want your MFA solution to work? Perhaps. So, let's focus on something else. What about the applications? What are the software applications that your business uses? We noticed that they were using Duo, excellent product. But what was the problem? It was just not configured properly for their needs. Do you know which of these are critical? What are the different line of business applications your business uses every day? And as we learned in this instance, how are they configured? Are they hosted in-house or are they hosted in the cloud? And here's something else to consider. Have your very resourceful employees introduce other applications that you're not aware of in order to get things done? That's possible. That's something that we see at times. So what's the takeaways? The reality, no one is 100% secure. But something we learned even from this, they were doing good with implementing the basics, but they just didn't do it completely. And that happens as we're trying to better secure the business. Then sometimes we start working on some things and we don't have the time to completely implement it. And so we know that because if it were completely implemented, well, then they would have stopped initial access from those compromised credentials. You see, because the user would have been disabled if they weren't there, period of inactivity, the device was already enrolled. The user would have been disabled in Active Directory, access would have been revoked. There was the printer nightmare vulnerability that allowed one to have system godlike access over their computer. Well, had that been patched, then they couldn't take advantage of that vulnerability. And then you think about secure passwords. Stop password reuse. If password reuse had been stopped, well, then that one compromised credential, well, it wouldn't do anything. And if you have unique local administrative passwords for every machine, well, then they're going to have to start trying to implement brute force and guess every last password, because they won't be able to just move from machine to machine doing what they would like. Something else that you can do is does everyone need to have the ability to log on to any computer within your company? You see, you can limit certain users to log in to certain devices. And so implementing some of these basic controls, well, that would have done wonders for them. But you know what? You can begin doing that now, implementing security controls. There's the CIS security framework. There's NIST. There's many of these frameworks with security controls, and they can help you strengthen the security posture of your business. Thank you for tuning in to this month's Cybersecure Laredo Threat Advisory. And if you need assistance in implementing security controls to better secure your business, here's our information. Give us a call. Schedule an appointment. And we can help walk you through doing this little by little so that it's not so overwhelming. See you in the next Cybersecure Laredo Threat Advisory. Take care. Stay secure.